It's a blessing to be with you on this Wednesday for the word of encouragement. I'd like to go back to the Old Testament to 1 Chronicles chapter 28. Here we find the instruction of David to the people of God and to Solomon as he was about to go to heaven and the kingdom would be Solomon's. And one of the aspects of his teaching here and his leadership was that about the temple. This was very important. The temple was going to be a very public display of the glory of Jehovah God. It was going to be the place that Israel was supposed to reach the nations of the world. Sadly, often it was not the case, but that was the purpose of it. So it had to be done right. It had to be done in a way that would fully accomplish the Mosaic law for the sake of the sacrifices, for the priesthood, and all that needed to be done. And so after David encourages Solomon to serve the Lord with a perfect heart and with a willing mind, you'll find that in verse 9. He says in verse 11, "Then David gave to Solomon his son the pattern of the porch, and of the houses thereof, and of the treasuries thereof, and of the upper chambers thereof, and of the inner parlors thereof, and of the place of the mercy seat, and the pattern of all that he had by the Spirit of the courts of the house of the Lord, and of all the chambers round about, and of the treasuries of the house of God, and of the treasuries of the dedicated things." And he goes on and talks about, he also gave instructions for all the instruments, all the things that would be used in the temple. Now, what I think is very interesting here is that Solomon became, because of his desire to have wisdom to lead the kingdom properly, God gave him wisdom and then blessed him mightily. And so Solomon in his own right had wisdom. But in this situation about the temple, which would be the crowning accomplishment of his reign, he goes with the instruction of the Spirit of God to his father David regarding how the temple should be done. Instead of trying to figure out it himself, all the details that David gave him, he followed them exactly. Why did he do that? Because we find that the Spirit of the Lord had given David these instructions. You know, we have to be very careful to think we can figure things out ourselves. The Word of God is complete. We have the whole Revelation from Genesis to the book of Revelation. And we've got to be very careful not to add to the Word of God, not to try to improve upon it, to try to elaborate on it. We want to make it clear, or certainly want to teach it, but we need to obey it exactly as it says and to fully yield to the Word of God. And when you do that, like with Solomon, God just blessed the whole endeavor. God gave him wisdom on how to do it. He did it perfectly. The people rejoiced, and God was glorified. And to show God's pleasure in this, the very Shekinah presence of the Lord came upon the temple. The priests had to leave. They couldn't minister there, as the Ark of the Covenant was now in the Holy of Holies. And so God gave his approval. And there's nothing sweeter in life than when you know God is for what you're doing. So how important it is that we should pattern our lives after the instructions from the Word of God. And may God enable us to fully understand his Word and then to depend upon it and obey it. And then we will see God accomplish great things through our lives.